I remember making a video on Instagram last year, and that video was explaining the tool of leverage and certain principles around wealth creation. And I can never forget, there was this comment that made me smile and shake my head. Somebody came up to my comment section on Instagram and said, bro, forget all of these levels. If God blow your whistle, you know, go wear jersey, you go play full time. In other words, if you don't understand PA, what it means is that without preparation, without being ideal, you can succeed and excel. Life don't just turn around. Now, let me introduce the shift, the actual design of God. Christ, the wisdom of God and the power of God. The church in Nigeria was taught to exalt the power dimension of God over the wisdom dimension of God. And this is why things like the law of prayer, the law of fasting was so emphasized. The law of value, the law of diligence, the law of solution, the law of leverage were completely ignored. The law of wisdom was completely ignored. You see, when you engage on supernatural laws like the law of fasting and prayer, power is created in the realm of the spirit, and power is good. James 5 says, the fervent, effectual prayer of the righteous man availeth much. If you read it in the Amplified Version, he says it makes tremendous power available. But power is a concept that exists in the realm of the spirit. When it comes to thriving in the realm of men, what is needed is wisdom. Power has to be transmitted or translated to wisdom, into ideas, into concepts, into vision, into projects, into goals, into action, into applying principles. This is the part that was left missing. So people pray and tremendous power available in their spirit, but their mind has not been developed. That is why the Apostle Paul says, let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. The reason why you see Christians who pray as much as Jesus prayed, you see Christians who pray both day and night and they live a broke, powerless, wretched life, because the mind is not developed. It's hardly ever developed. The power is abundance in their spirit, but the mind that translates power into solutions, into value, which now attracts the reward, is completely left unattended. The only thing they can fight is demons. Lack of governmental power, lack of financial power, lack of mental power, lack of almost every form of power. If the church in Africa, if you as a Christian would rise and step into position of power, financial power, intellectual power, mental power, political power, you need an introduction of both the power and the wisdom dimension. Understanding principles, not just miracles.